Good afternoon, all. It's my pleasure to introduce you Miha Krofel. Miha Krofel is from University of Ljubljana in Slovenia. He has been here the last week giving a course about the ecology and conservation of threatened species. And Miha has a wide experience in large carnivores, not only in Europe with the lynx, Siberian wolf, brown bear, but also in Africa and some parts of Asia. Come here. I'm talking about you. And this seminar will be focused on a very successful project, a live project, live lynx, on the Eurasian lynx in the Dinaric region. And it's being somehow also with the support of Life Loopy Lynx. It's a live project that is being running in Portugal, coordinated by Rewilding Portugal, and where Biopolis is also a partner. And I guess it can be a very inspiring, because Life Loopy Lynx is about the recovering of Iberian lynx and Iberian wolf in the central region, central transbordering region of Iberia in Beira Baixa. And I guess they have similar problems, either both the wolf and Iberian lynx in this region, similar to what happened at the beginning in the Dinaric Mountains. And I think this successful recovery that they were able to do it in Dinarics can be very inspiring for us. So please, Miha, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and your experience. And please.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much, Francisco, for introduction, and also to Life Loopy Lynx and CBO for inviting me here. Really happy to be back to Portugal and CBO after many years of being away. So I'll be talking about Eurasian lynx and recovery attempts in the Dinaric Mountains and the Eastern Alps. Perhaps some of you have been here for one seminar I gave on this topic as well a few years ago. That time we were still at the very beginning of this project. So I was talking more about the ideas and planning and the approach we're using. But now with the project completed, I can already share about results. So what was achieved, what were the exact results. So I hope it will be interesting for some of you. But also generally, we see that there is increasing efforts of restoring large carnivore and large mammal populations in general across the world. And this is by no means easy task. I guess we all can think of several examples where it didn't go so well. So it's very important to learn from these examples, either good ones or bad ones. But to be able to learn from them, we really need good monitoring. We have to follow the whole procedure from preparatory phase to after our releases have been completed to understand what actually occurred. So this is why monitoring of such process is really important. And we try to put a lot of effort into this. So even if it wouldn't work in the end, we can understand why it didn't work. I guess we were lucky. For us, it worked. And I'll be sharing some of the examples. So maybe it will be useful also for some other projects. To start with, some general information about the species. So it's Eurasian lynx. Morphologically very similar to a barren lynx in Portugal and Spain. It's about double the size. But behaviorally, ecologically, it's actually quite a different species. Okay? Usually around 15 kilos, we have this threshold when predators that are larger than this switch from hunting small animals to animals that are similar size of themselves or bigger. Okay? Once you're below this line, usually they go for animals much smaller. For example, a barren lynx is just under this value. So it's going mainly for rabbits, similar to Canada lynx or bobcats and other smaller carnivores, while Eurasian lynx is one of the smallest of so-called big cats. At least looking at the ecological point of view, it's hunting prey that is large, mainly deer, chamois, similar species. So it's considered apex predator in most of the ecosystems, including all the European forests where it lives. So it's predator of these large ungulates. Because of this, it has also many other characteristics similar to other large apex predators. For example, large home range size, several hundred square kilometers. When it comes to hunting, it's a stalker or ambush hunter, so it cannot run very fast, unlike wolf. It has to get very close to be able to surprise and kill the prey, which is usually quite large, so it's quite a lot of action involved. I'll show you one example. So it's a roe deer. It has to be very, very close, few meters, otherwise it will not succeed. Then we have the rodeo thing, and yeah, sometimes it's successful. When it comes to social systems, social behavior, it's a solitary cat, like majority of all the cats. Both sexes solitary. It's also a very territorial species. Territoriality works against the same sex. So males will chase away the other males. Females will chase away the other females. While male and female, they tolerate each other. Okay. To maintain this social system, so even though they're solitary, it doesn't mean they are asocial. Okay, they always keep in close contact with its own mate that we're sharing the home range, also with the neighbors. Yeah, so we can say it's doing long distance relationships, which are also just they don't have Zooms and things like that to communicate this way. So use other ways of communication, which is scent marking and calling. This is a scent mark with the urine, with head rubbing, body rubbing, and calling. Okay. We still don't know what they're saying very well, but we are on it. So hopefully one next talks could be about communication. Conservation status. So at the global level, the entire species, it's widespread also into Asia, all the way to the Far East. It's quite many Eurasian lynx globally, so it's considered least concern. But we have many populations, especially in Europe, that are critically endangered. Okay? This includes the population I'll be focusing on today, is the Dinaric, as well as the Eastern Alpine population. They're both until recently considered critically endangered. I'll get back to it why this is the case. Just to show where we are. So this is roughly the distribution of Eurasian lynx in Europe. It then continues into Asia. So we have some of the large populations, especially in the north, Fennoscandia, Carpathians, that never got extinct. Also the Baltics have them, and Balkan lynx, also lynx that survived, but is very small, very endangered. And then we have several populations in Central Europe where lynx was completely exterminated, but they were reintroduced. Started in the 1970s, and it's continuing. Like at the moment, there are several ongoing projects in Germany that are introducing lynx, and they share a common problem that because often it was relatively low number of animals were reintroduced, many of them are having issues with genetics, with inbreeding. Okay? And yeah, I'll be focusing on this part of Europe. So this is the Dinaric Mountains and the neighboring Eastern Alps. So this is part of the Dinaric Eastern Alpine population. Some background about why it's so threatened. Actually, lynx, like most parts of Europe, were completely exterminated. In the beginning of the 20th century, less lynx were shot, but it was not just overhunting of lynx. It was also the problem with overhunting of prey. So roe deer was almost extinct, red deer was completely extinct, and also habitat loss. There was massive deforestation taking place at that time. So lynx was gone for several decades from Slovenia and neighboring countries until 1973, when Slovenian hunters decided, with the help of foresters and biologists, to reintroduce the lynx. So it's important to keep in mind, it was the hunters' initiative to reintroduce the lynx to Slovenia. Happened in 1973, but there were only 6 animals that were translocated, and later it became clear that they were related. There was mother and son, and probably brother and sister among them. At that time, it was considered this would be the first phase of the reintroduction, but second phase never followed. Okay, so entire population is coming from 6 related animals. There was quick expansion. It expanded to neighboring countries, Croatia, Bosnia, Austria, Italy, in the 70s and the 80s. But it never managed to get in contact with any other population in Europe. Okay, it remained isolated. Then it reached its peak in the 1990s. This is reconstruction based on genetics, genetic analysis from historic samples, estimating the effective population size. So it reached its peak in the 1990s, and then it was followed by this drastic decline. Yeah? It was not clear for a long time what is the main cause, but then we started research that showed that we have, as expected, of course, very high inbreeding levels. Okay? There are also problems with poaching, roadkills. In the first decades after reintroduction, it was also trophy hunting that's taking place. Some say a bit more too much, or up to 12 lynx shot per year. But this was then stopped in 2005 when decline was observed. But there was still some poaching going on in roadkills. Important part of ecology of our lynx is also interactions with the brown bear, especially the kleptoparasitism. So lynx, because it's hunting large prey, it takes on average 4 days to eat a roe deer. Okay, but often the bear will come and take this prey from it. On average, about 1/3 of the lynx kills are taken by bears. Right? So this could be affecting them. But still, by far, the main threat that we were facing was the high inbreeding levels. This is also based on these historic genetic samples we got, this reconstruction of how the effective inbreeding increased during the years. So especially after 2000 was this very high increase. For those with you not working with genetics, to give you an idea, 0.25 inbreeding level means entire population is just brothers and sisters. Okay, we passed this in 2006. So now, when we started the project, actually it was over 0.3. So it means like brother and sister mating for several generations with one another. So very, very high inbreeding, one of the highest known in the world for felids, and also the highest known for Eurasian lynx. And of course, this resulted in many health issues. So we had skeletal deformations. Main problem we noticed was with heart failures because of the degeneration of hearts. For example, we had this, I don't know, the vets should correct me how you call this hole in the heart, septum something. I'm not sure. Our vets, yeah, were not this. So we actually had several cases actually confirmed that lynx died, usually during the hunt, when there's this like strenuous on the body, that the hearts were failing. And we have some more aesthetic issues, like, you know, they have these ear tufts on the ears. You see, this individual had 2 ear tufts from the same ear. It should be one. Okay. These are not really functional problems, but yeah, heart failures were very functional or dysfunctional. So it was clear we need to do something about it. Generally, there are 2 options how to reduce the inbreeding. So, well, solution is you allow animals to start breeding with unrelated animals, right? So one option to achieve this is to establish natural gene flow with one of the neighboring populations. But we didn't have any close population that we could establish the link, at least not in the short term. So the only other option was to do translocations, that we artificially capture some lynx somewhere else and bring them, release them, and give chance to our lynx to mate with them. But when it comes to moving large carnivores, of course, we come into the realm of the human dimensions, which is, to us biologists, a bit, yeah, we're not trained for this, to say, usually. But luckily with our team, we had some specialists working on these public attitudes towards carnivores. And so they did several questionnaires, because in order to translocation to be successful, you need to have local support, of course. Otherwise, yeah, it often goes bad. So this was already in 2008 in our first lynx project. We were looking at these problems and possible solutions. So luckily, we observed that we have very high support among the general public, most of them supporting the lynx conservation, as well as we asked them specifically if they would support translocations, and most of them agreed. And even more importantly, also the most important stakeholder in our region, these are the hunters. Also among them, we have very high support, a little bit less in Croatia, but still vast majority of the also Croatian hunters approved such a project. So then we had to look for a donor population. Like I said, several populations in Europe. Northern lynx are generally adapted to quite different lynx. There are also different subspecies, so they were excluded. Also, all these small populations in Central Europe, we excluded them because they had themselves inbreeding problems, right? Also, the Balkan lynx was very small. That time we assumed it had inbreeding problems. Now it's confirmed. So the only real option was the Carpathian population, which was still large, several thousand of lynx, and was also the source for the reintroduction 1973. That was from the Czechoslovakia that those lynx came. So in 2017, we started with a large life project called Life Lynx. This is the total title, with the main goal of, actually two main goals. One was prevent extinction of the Dinaric population. So we'll talk about reinforcement, adding new individuals. And in the same project, we also did reintroduction to the Southeastern Alps, where lynx were functionally extinct by that time. In total, a 7-year project, 7 million in total budget, involving 5 countries, 11 project partners, so very large project. It was coordinated by the Slovenia Forest Service, so included governmental organizations like Slovenia Forest Service, researchers, forest managers, hunters, and several NGOs. We also included Slovakia and Romania as countries with their project partners as the donor for the links for translocations. So this is roughly the situation when we started with first translocations, year 2018-19. We still had some links in the Dinaric Mountains, but like I said, heavily inbred, quite a drastic decline in the last years. While in the Alps, links were basically functionally extinct. There were some 1 or 2 individuals here on the border between Italy and Austria, but before the first releases, also they were gone. So basically, we were doing reintroduction in this area. The closest strong population is in Switzerland and going into France, while this population in Austria is very small and confined to one national park, which heavy poaching. So as soon as basically these lynx leave the park borders, they disappear. Okay, so these were our 2 main project areas. One are Dinaric Mountains, Slovenia, Croatia. The other one, Julian Alps, so Slovenia, Italy, and they also go a little bit in Austria, but Austria was not partner in this project. So in the Dinaric Mountains, these are large forest landscapes, karstic landscape with karstic terrain, high bear densities. These were the lynx survived, so we still have this inbred population. And to this area, we translocated 12 lynx as a reinforcement, 11 males, 1 female. And the second area was Julian Alps, much higher, mountainous region, many parts above the tree line. Very few bears, but otherwise similar landscape, except being higher. Also prey species similar. There's a bit more chamois here compared to Dinarics. And like I said, lynx functionally extinct. Here we first translocated 6 animals, 3 males, 3 females, into the Slovenian part. And then in the same period, actually, there was a partner project in Italy, Ulica, that brought 4 more lynx to Italy, 3 females, 1 male. So I'll be focusing on all the analysis I will show will be focusing on these 22 animals and their destinies. So main approaches used. Translocation was the central part of the project, but not the only one. We have a lot of supporting activities going on at the same time. So translocation took from Carpathian Mountains, from Slovakia and Romania, into Croatia and Slovenia, and then, like I said, also in Italy with another project. We use 2 types of releases, so-called soft release and hard release. Soft release means lynx is captured, put in quarantine, then translocated. When we come to the release site, we immediately open the box, lynx goes out. Okay? This is hard release. Soft release means that same procedure, but when we bring the lynx to the release point, we have enclosure waiting for the lynx at the release site. They're put in the enclosure and they're kept there for a few weeks and then released. Okay? There's a difference. And we're also testing what's the difference in the post-release movement. And from the beginning, we were planning that if some of the lynx will be poached or died, we will replace them with new one, which was also thought as deterrent against poaching. So also, if some people are against it, that they would know that if they kill some lynx, we'll just replace them with the new ones. Of course, our ability, how many times we could do that, was limited, but we were not too loud about that. Okay, so these were translocations. At the same time, we also focused on anti-poaching. We know it's not a major threat at the moment, but especially when population starts growing, right, there could be changes in attitude and so on. So we also created for the first time the anti-wildlife poaching unit in the police. That was only done in Slovenia. And also we put a lot of attention to communication. Okay, so we have a lot of PR, a lot of communication work, trying to be very transparent about all the phases to maintain this relatively high support that was at the beginning of the project, to increase the awareness amongst the general public. We try to use ambassadors to promote the idea that lynx are endangered and need conservation. We focus mainly on the sport superstars. In Slovenia, one was Andrzej Kopitar. I know some of you follow hockey. He's like one of these NHL superstars, also in US. In Slovenia, especially in the Alpine region, he's very popular. Not to miss is that our hockey team are called the Lynx. Okay, so that was also why he was kind of interested to help us. And Peter Preutz, he's like one of the world-class championship in ski jumps. I guess ski jumping is not super popular in Portugal, but if you would follow the sport, you would definitely know about him. And in Slovenia, he has this superhero like Cristiano Ronaldo for you, this kind of status. So just to give you an idea. He was also very supportive in many of the these public raising campaigns. And important part also was we were creating we call them local consultation groups. So especially in areas we were doing releases of the lynx, we identified key people like the mayors, opinion leaders, also school teachers, important hunters, and so on, and gave them kind of a privileged insight into the project, regularly meeting, sharing information, and kind of counting on them that then they will be then sharing information among their local communities. Yeah, rather than us coming from the capital, telling to people, we also trying to involve them, and also because they could be so important in driving the opinions in the local communities. We felt important to have them on board. Just a tip: if you'll be doing something like this, food is very important. Okay, you provide food, they come. You don't provide food, chances are much lower. So that was quite important. In addition to sharing information, discussing, addressing concerns, and starting already before the releases, of course, and then throughout the project. And as I mentioned, hunters were the most important stakeholders, especially because we were concerned that poaching could become a threat. So we tried to involve them as early as possible. So in Slovenia, actually the hunters, the Hunting Association of Slovenia was included as a full partner of the project. We also kind of built on legacy that it was hunters in the 70s who introduced the lynx. So in the end, when we're choosing the release sites, actually the main parameter was that local hunters were supportive of it. Because we know it doesn't really matter where in the Dinaric Mountains we release them, they will move around, right? So we let them choose, okay, we want to release them. That was so they felt also included and have feeling of having a say in these decisions, right? They were also in charge of the soft release enclosures when we're using soft releases. So they were building them, they were feeding the lynx when it was in there, and importantly, they were the ones opening the gates. Okay? And this is very important for the media in public relations, that the public sees it was the hunter, especially that other hunters saw that it was hunter who released the lynx, not us. And they're very involved in the monitoring, especially they were camera trapping was one important monitoring methods, and they were basically taking care of that part, maintaining cameras, changing batteries, SD cards, and so on. They were including several other parts. Maybe I won't go into details. One thing I would like to stress is we made 2 documentaries about the project, focusing both on hunters. One was history of lynx in Slovenia, showing the historical role that hunters had. And second one was about activities with the project, always pushing hunters in the front line, which was important from perspective that these documentaries were then shown on national TV. Okay, so hunters would sit at home, watch this documentary, not just seeing themselves there, but also thinking, okay, the entire public is watching this, and lynx make me look good, in the eyes of the public, because hunters often they have quite bad public image, right? They've seen us like just killers and so on. So for them, it's important that they improve their public image as well. And we kind of try to use links to improve it. And in return, we are hoping that they will also then have improved their attitude to support for the lynx conservation in this way. Okay, then came to the phase that is most exciting, but as I often say, it's less important in the translocations. It's the translocation itself. So we're putting box traps in Slovakia and Romania using sites, especially scent marking sites are very useful. So these kind of cages, lynx and boxes, I mean cats and boxes, you know, they like to go in. So we close, alarm to the team. Team comes, first medical check, then they go to quarantine in the origin country, and then they are translocated. Then very important phase, post-release monitoring. Okay? So you use several methods to follow not just the lynx themselves, but also the impact they would have on the nature and on the population. So I'll quickly go through this method that we're using. So first monitoring was at the individual level. So what is happening with the released animals? All of them were equipped with GPS, GSM collars. Many of them were then recolored to prolong the period. So before the battery would run out, we captured them again, put a new collar. So many of them we followed for 2-3 years. This enabled us to monitor their movement, so where they were going, whether they survived or not. If they didn't survive, what was the cause of mortality? We are checking their ecological impact. So predation, we're using the GPS location clusters to identify kill sites. It's very easy to do with the lynx. Also using scats for that analysis. We're checking their health status, either when we were recapturing them, but also we're often putting cameras on the fresh kills. So when the lynx comes back, we could assess just visually how they're looking, if they're starving or some other problems. We also used GPS telemetry of the females to check on reproduction, but also using camera trapping and non-invasive genetics on the remnant females to see how the males that we reinforce, if they were involved in mating, if there was parenthood. Then ecological levels, we focused on interspecific interactions, especially two most important interactions that we know from previous research for lynx in this area. This is predation, looking into prey selection, which species, but also which individuals they were killing, and estimating the kill rates. Then the second most important interactions for our lynx is kleptoparasitism, especially from the bears. So we also monitor that, but also which other scavengers are interacting with the species. And in parallel, there was also some other project looking into the prey abundances and changes in behavior of the lynx. That's still ongoing. The next level was population level monitoring. So first we're following the distribution, so how the expansion or contraction population was happening using several methods. Then we used camera trapping data and capture-recapture modeling to estimate densities and abundance of the lynx throughout the project. And of course, since inbreeding was the main threat, we also followed what was the impact of these translocations on the genetic diversity in the population, and again, also at the reproduction at the population level. And then, of course, very important is also to follow public attitudes. So is this increase in lynx numbers when more and more roe deer carcasses are being found by hunters and so on, how this is influencing the public perception about the lynx, the support for the conservation, and also how effective are our activities to maintain this high support. So we did a lot of questionnaires, general public, before, during, and after translocations in all parts of the project. And as mentioned, we had also these local consultation groups, and we also asked them about any concerns, and we were following their opinions on the whole project throughout the project. Okay, let's look at the results. What happened after lynx arrived? First, looking at the individual level, so focusing both on these lynx that were released. So here you see one. This is the first lynx released in Slovenia from the soft release enclosure. But at the same time and before, we were also monitoring the remnant population. So these were the lynx from the 1970, descendants of the lynx from the 1973 reintroduction to compare them, survival, reproduction, so on, to see what are the changes. Okay, this is a bit of a messy map. The stars are release locations. Okay, so black ones are the ones with hard release. Gray ones are the ones from soft release, and this shade is the area where they use both hard release and soft release. Green ones are radio-colored remnant lynx. They were there before or during, and the lines connect release point with the area where this one goes here, where they established the territory. So we measured also distance from the release site to the establishment of the territory. Okay, I will come back to this now. So overall, 22 lynx released. Of them, at least 68% we have proved that they successfully integrated in the population. Successfully integrate means that they established territory in the area where also other lynx were present. So there was at least potential for the reproduction. The difference between the hard release and soft release were not great, but in this case we saw a little bit higher success of integration when soft release was used rather than hard release. Then we looked how far they moved after they're being released. So we say that if they moved less than 5 kilometers, we call them that they established themselves at the release site. Okay. Overall, from all of them, 1/3 established at the release site, 2/3 left and went somewhere else. Here, difference between soft release and hard release is bigger. So we see that with hard release, very few of them stayed where they were just dropped. But with the soft release, almost half of them stayed around the release site. Especially reintroduction to the Slovenian side of the Julian Alps, almost all of them, only 1 out of 6 release lynx moved away. All of them actually stayed there, which was very important because when you do reinforcement, like in the Dinaric Mountains, when you have already population widespread, if they move around a bit, it's not a big issue. They will find some other lynx, right? But if you do reintroduction with only, like in this case, 6 animals released, if they would scatter around, they will not find each other anymore to reproduce. So that was very important that all of them stayed at the release site, so they maintain contact and there is reproduction afterwards. And these lynx, they behaved very, very well. Yeah. Then also, yeah, the median distance of how far they dispersed, on average 23 kilometers. And again, we see quite a difference with hard release. They went almost double as far as those that were released with soft release. So it seems that soft release in this case may help you, especially when doing reintroductions. So they help you that they will stay around at the release site. Then we look into survival and mortality. Survival of the remnant lynx, so the lynx from the old population, was quite low on average. So overall, 2/3 of them only survived the tracking period, while with translocated, it was higher. 82% of them survived tracking period. And also their offspring. So this is the offspring. When at least one of the parents or both were translocated, they have even higher survival rate. Okay. But this is the most important information, if you ask me. This is natural mortality. So natural mortality means some health issues usually, right? So with the random population, we had 22% dying, mainly of the heart failures, or often we didn't know what exactly was, but there was like, some health problem. While with these 22 translocated and 10 of their offspring that we followed, we don't have a single mortality because of this. We had some poaching events, so we had some anthropogenic mortality, but the main problem that was facing before seems to be eliminated. Then we looked at reproduction. So both for males and females. Of course, with males it's more difficult to track. So with males we probably missed many of that might have been. But generally, we assumed if there was a female with kittens detected inside the territory of the male, we assumed it was from this male. But in about half cases, we also managed to get genetic samples from such cases, and all of them proved that actually the father was this territorial lynx. So we assume that most of them, also the other ones, was this male was the father. yeah, here, this is probably one of the biggest successes of this project, I would say. 59% of all the, at least 59% of them were recorded to have reproduced, which is about double of what is the average for large carnivore translocations, okay, in other projects elsewhere. So it's, we consider it very high. Until 2024, when our monitoring ended, we already had 23 litters with at least one of parents being translocated and at least 54 kittens born to these translocated animals. Also interesting to note, we compared litter size of the remnant population and of translocated. And on average, it was 1/3 higher. So 2.2 kittens for translocated lynx, while for the remnant ones, it's 1.6, probably also connected with the inbreeding depression destruction. Yeah, another interesting thing that we started to notice were so-called extraterritorial excursions. This is typically at the end of the mating season. So typically the lynx, it will mate with the female in his territory, but after they've done their thing, he would go, often quite far away, looking for other females that may not have been mated yet, lasting a few weeks typically, and then come back to his wife, pretending nothing happened, and they all happily lived the whole year again. He never left again until after next mating season again. Yeah, several examples across all the lynx. We recorded this during the 95% of the mating season. Seems to be very common, actually. Before that, it was not really known for the Eurasian lynx to do this. Yeah, here more data. So on average, they lasted 2 weeks, and they went up to 50 kilometers away from their permanent home range, from their territory. Here also we know the difference between the remnant males and the translocated males. It was much more common among the translocated males, these excursions. Yeah, still not sure why, but this is what we observed. And later we did a larger study on this topic across Europe, and it was also confirmed that translocated animals more often do these mating excursions, and also actually females do it. But with females, it seems to be more related that if there is no male in their home range, because of course female can only mate once, right, per mating season, so it doesn't make so much sense. But males, they can mate multiple times, have multiple litters in the same year. What is the success? So how often actually they succeed in mating and having offspring afterwards? We don't know, unfortunately. Often we didn't have good monitoring in these places to be able to confirm genetically that this resulted in some kittens being born. Okay, then we look, like I said, at ecosystem level, ecological impact. Focus on these two interactions that I already mentioned were most important: predation and kleptoparasitism. Let's take a look at the predation first. On average, it took 8 days after release to make a first big kill. Okay, they might have killed some smaller prey, but these are hard to detect with telemetry. So, for example, in our area, especially dormice are often eaten by lynx, but yeah, large prey, it was an average a bit over 1 week after release, and all of them managed to hunt, which is probably also related to the fact that we only use wild-caught lynx. Okay, lynx that are already experienced with hunting wild prey in nature. At the moment, there are several projects going on also using captive lynx. With Eurasian lynx, a bit of an issue. Like in German projects, for example, they're not allowed to give them live prey for training, like it's possible to do with rabbits with the barren lynx. So there were some issues actually that lynx didn't manage to make ungulate kills after being released. In our case, this was not a problem. This overall diet of our lynx, by far most important. Yeah, this is only large prey that we detect with clusters. Okay, this is not scat analysis, so there's some more small prey. So majority is roe deer, 80% overall. And also when comparing different lynx, so for example, these are the remnant lynx in Dinarics. These are translocated lynx in Dinarics. This is basically the same picture. Okay, so the spectrum is very similar, dominated by the roe deer, followed by red deer. In the Alps, still roe deer is dominant, but you see a bit more of the black part. This is the chamois, which we have much higher densities in the Alps compared to the Dinaric Mountains, so it was also expected. Then we looked also at the sex and age structure, specifically in the roe deer, which is the most common prey species. I will not go in details, but overall, very similar among all of the lynx, and also not much selection compared to what is available. Okay? So they were taking what is out there. But we found some selection when it comes to physical condition. So this comparison between the lynx prey and roe deer shot by hunters in the same area. And we saw that physical condition was, this is proportion of animals in poor condition, and this is starving animals, the animals that wouldn't survive probably next winter. Is less than 20% marrow fat in the bones. So we see there is selection. They're going for weaker animals, but yeah, part of them are not are also completely healthy animals. Then we looked at the kill rates, how many animals they kill, by estimating the inter-kill interval. So this is the time between one predation and the next predation. Okay. There was some variation among different individuals, but when we look at the averages, basically translocated lynx and remnant lynx are almost identical kill rates. Okay, showing that even though they came from a different environment, they seem to adapt quite quickly and were successfully hunting deer in this also in these landscapes. They look also at the feeding time. So this is the time they spend on the carcass, which is a proxy for how much food they get per kill. Here again, we didn't see much difference between the remnant and translocated lynx in Dinarics, but we observed quite some difference between the Alps and Dinaric Mountains among the translocated ones. 15% more food on average they would get from in the Alps, which seem to be connected primarily with this. So here we have one of the lynx. Okay. They try to defend the prey against scavengers, but when the scavenger is a bit too big, there's nothing for them what they can do. So bears are so large that basically first night they found the prey remains, they would eat everything or drag. So when the lynx come back to continue feeding, there's nothing left. So this is reducing the feeding time, and is so this difference feeding time, it fits quite well when we compare the number of kills that were taken by the bears. So the kleptoprism rate, this is still very high both for remnant and translocated in the Dinaric Mountains, about 1/3, while in the Alps it's much less. And this is with the fact that there's much less bears in the alpine part of the country than in Dinaric Mountains. Okay, but then we also want to look at the other perspective. So how important is the ecological role of lynx as providing food for the scavengers? And here, in total, we recorded over 20 species just from vertebrates that were benefiting from lynx kills. It was quite interesting. We're still analyzing this data, so I don't have very detailed data. But what we observed is that in Dinaric Mountains, it was mainly the mammals, like bears and foxes, also some jackals, feeding from the lynx kills. While in the Alps, especially for those lynx that lived above the tree line, where it's open canopy, we had much more avian scavengers. Yeah? Because in forests, it's much more difficult for them to locate. But there we had, for example, you can see here many ravens, griffon vultures, especially for golden eagles, seems to be important. We have an ongoing project now. We're also tagging eagles and laying links to see how important it's. It seems like about, I think preliminary data show about 15% of all the diet of eagles are coming from the lynx, which is especially important in the winter period when eagles are mainly relying on scavenging more than hunting. They're hunting more over the summer periods. Then we looked at the impact of translocations at the population level. Like I said, one was looking at the abundance and densities. We're using camera traps with the help of the local hunting clubs. Lynx are very useful species for this because they're spotted, so they can be recognized, so they can do capture-recapture. This is the information for the entire Dinaric Mountains, Slovenia and Croatia. 4 years when we did survey across this transboundary area, around 200 camera traps every season. And we saw that not just we managed to stop this decline in the population, it was also reversed. So during already the first 4 years of the translocations, we had 44% increase in the lynx densities. Okay? So 2019 was the first year of the translocations. It was so in total also the abundance. This is not entire population because we didn't, especially in Croatia, we didn't survey the whole population, and also it goes into Bosnia. But in this state space that we monitored, we estimate increase from roughly 110 to 156. These only adults. And this is now just for Slovenia, where we had 1 more year of monitoring already before. Here, the increase was even higher, almost the density is doubled during the project. And then when we count, so this is just Dinaric Mountains. When we count also the Alps, when we had 0 lynx before, and add them, the mean estimate number was from 21 adults at the beginning of the project, at the 50 adults, roughly 50 adults at the this is 2023-24, last monitoring we did. But it seems to be still increasing, especially in the Alps. They're doing quite well. And these are probably the most important parts. So the main threat mentioned was these high inbreeding levels. So this was the estimate at the start of the translocations. And then we estimated how much it declined. So there are 2 approaches. It depends whether you count the alpine reintroduction as part of this population already or as separate, right? At the moment, we had 1 individual that we tracked with telemetry that moved between the Dinarics and Alps and back. So we believe sooner or later they will merge, right? But at the moment, there is not much contact. So this value is excluding the alpine part, but is counting the Alps as part of the same population. So we had on average 41 to 75% decrease in the inbreeding, which we estimate translate to 2-fold to 4-fold increase in fitness with this. So we moved below these values that were, let's say, in the 1990s when minnow population was still doing quite okay. If we take the lower value, hopefully, which will be achieved with this connectivity, it will be actually well below it. That should, also when we did some future projections, so what will the impact? And if we stop with translocations, there will be no more translocations in the future. It should be okay until roughly 2050. So this is effective population size. This is inbreeding levels. On the left side is projection if we wouldn't do the translocation, and this is with the translocation, right? So it seems at least for a few decades we managed to prevent the extinction, or at least this threat extinction from inbreeding. While it would, very likely so these are the levels that very likely population would no longer be viable, right? Or be extinct if it would not be done. So probably in a few years we were like kind of catching less train, I would say, with these translocations. But hopefully we also did some modeling how many lynx we'll have to bring in the future to maintain this. But hopefully this will not be needed, because our long-term vision is to try connecting, creating meta population in at least part of Europe. So probably the easiest would be to try connecting with the Swiss West Alpine population. So this is also why I decided to make this stepping stone population now in the Julian Alps as a first step towards reaching to the Switzerland. So hopefully next project will be now focusing especially Italy and Austria and trying to achieve this. There are also plans for translocations to the Balkan population. So there's another possibility that we would try to connect Dinaric and Balkan. Also some ideas for the other ones, but this is a bit more problematic because especially here in Austria, we have huge problems with poaching at the moment. But it would be much better that in these next decades we could do at least one of these gene flow to be reestablished. Then we wouldn't need to do this very expensive, very artificial in a way translocations that what we did now. And the last slide, like I said, now inbreeding seems to be at least for a few decades solved. So the main threat in next decades probably could be poaching. Similar like in most of the rest of the Europe, poaching is the main cause of mortality for the lynx. So for this, very important to maintain this high support, both among the general public, also among the hunters. So we're also following how this shaped during the project. These are the data when we started the project, 2019, when this is just before first links were released. So this is Croatia, general public hunters, Italy, general public hunters, Slovenia, general public hunters. I guess you don't see the numbers much, but you see it's quite green, right? This means, yeah, people are happy. They support the lynx conservation, support the lynx. And what happened next years? And also what was kind of a, yeah, this was a way how to indirectly measure effectiveness of all these efforts done by the communication team and ambassadors and working with hunters. Well, luckily, you see it stayed mainly green also during and after the releases. Only part where we see some issues might be hunters in Italy. See here it's becoming a bit more orange, which is some really disagreeing with lynx conservation. But Croatia and Slovenia and also Italian general public remain highly supportive of the lynx. I mean, also Italian hunters, over 60% of them support still the lynx conservation. But this is something that it will be good to work on, especially since in the future Italy will be important factor for this connectivity. Okay, thank you very much for attention. I want to thank also the donors, so the LIFE program and the ministries. Italian translocation was supported by WWF there. But today especially thank you for your attention and for inviting me here.